Last Epoch just dropped their 1.0 patch notes. They made a gigantic blog of everything that's coming out. They got videos and they got 7 pages of changes. We spent 2 hours looking through all of it, and we condensed that into 1.5 pages of notes right here. So we can talk about this and what I think it means here. So Warlock and Falconer are released. We know that. It's going to be very exciting. The item factions come out. You can either go SSF or trading. We know that. The new resonances are coming out. They let you trade with your buddies. You're playing with a buddy, and then they go offline, and then it drops an item that you wanted to give to your buddy. If you have a resonance, you can gift them the item, right? So this has been asked a million times. I don't know if people are not familiar with like ARPGs, and that's fine. But the cycles are a fresh start. So all of the characters that you currently have in the game. So I have a million characters right here, right? I've got my 10 characters going. You're gonna get to. I was gonna show them to you. It was taking too long. You're gonna get to keep all of them. But in 2 days, when it comes out, the first cycle starts. And when the cycle starts, you're going to want to make another character. That way you can engage with the new factions and stuff. And everything else is in Legacy. And then at the end of the first cycle or season or league or whatever game that we're playing, they all have different names. It makes it very confusing. All of your characters will move to Legacy. You can keep them. You can keep playing them. By the way, they said that the character cap is 25, by the way, which is pretty godly. But once you're in Legacy, there are no leaderboards. There's nothing to compete on. So if you want to compete and you want the fresh start and you want all the new stuff, then you're going to want to play on a brand new cycle like in other games. So the no leaderboards on Legacy was news to me. The full offline mode, people really care about this. You can go into your Steam settings and enable a full offline mode. There's massive visual improvements. There's videos online of the different 1.0 gameplay, and it's significantly better. It's not just, it's in every aspect of the game. It's in the maps, it's in the characters, it's in the attacks, it's in the UI, it's in the tooltips. It actually, I gotta be honest, this is probably the most shocking thing to me of the whole thing is how much better Last Epoch looks. I actually didn't know. First of all, I didn't really even know that they were working on it, and I'm surprised at the difference that I think it's going to make for people. All the HUDs have been improved for questing and all the different things. This is actually one of the things that I think is going to hold back Last Epoch the most for new players. I don't think I've ever went through the campaign one time, and I've went through it at least 15 times where I haven't gotten confused by something. I get confused all the time, so I have to press M and where am I and what era am I in and what quest am I on? So the fact that they're continuing to work on this, I think, is very important. Okay, so now they're going to change the way that the difficulty works in the game. So first of all enemies are getting 2% health, 1% more damage. Okay, people aren't really going to notice that, but they did make that change. Then in the end game, they're going to switch how things work. So the way that it currently works in Last Epoch is when you do an end game system like the Monolith, corruption is what you build in the monoliths to raise the difficulty. But there was a problem with that because that raised difficulty is also paired with when you go through the monolith, the echoes that you choose have modifiers on them that also make the game harder. But since the level of corruption, the overall level of the monsters, didn't go up very high or very fast, you could raise corruption to an insanely high level and you would be like, oh, well, when you do that, you're not supposed to be able to play or win anymore, right? Well, you can raise it to a super high level and you can get around that by going through the echoes and just cherry picking all of the super easy modifiers. For example, one echo might say, monsters do double damage. okay, well, if you pick that, you're screwed. But another one might be like, monsters have 20% more health. And you'd be like, well, I don't like that either, but that's 1,000 times easier than them doing double damage and one-shotting you. So people were just cherry picking all of the specific map modifiers, and they could raise corruption really high. It was like a way to like gimmick the end game. So the changes that they're making are they're trying to make that not possible. So now their health and damage is going to go up, and the power is going to come from the corruption. So as you raise the corruption, the monsters everywhere, their health and their damage are going to get way harder. And it's less about like cherry picking the maps, which I honestly think this is better. Some people are going to be very upset about this. I think this is way better. It's way healthier for the game. Like before, it was just all this stupid ticky-tacky, picking all the right stuff just so you can barely clear it. And now just as you enter this higher level of corruption, it's going to be much more difficult. I just think it's a lot better. So that's like the main summary if you read through all the Monolith stuff. So then they increased a lot of the blessings. A lot of them were buffed for like resistances and ward and stuff like that. Some of them weren't listed, so I'm guessing they're not changed. And armor spell leech and throwing leech got nerfed in the blessings. That might matter to some people that rely on those. So then they showed some mathematics of it. And so they gave some specific examples about how the corruption increases, and it's also going to slightly increase the chance for legendary potential. So you ask yourself the same question that you ask in every ARPG. What should you be doing? Should you just pump the corruption as high as you possibly can, and then just struggle through map by map by map for the higher chances? Or should you lower it to a comfortable level and speed farm? And in the math that they showed, just doing some napkin math and showing the examples that they gave, assuming that they're right, pushing it as high as you possibly can and farming there does not seem like the play at all. It's going to be back to like the Diablo 3 days where you're just going to speed farm a comfy corruption level and just detonate it. And that's going to be the way that you get most of your rewards. The monoliths, the different, what are they called? Timelines, or the different eras of the monoliths. They actually did the research and calculated the density of every single one and normalized them all. That's normally what I do in Diablo 4. I run all the nightmare dungeons and I say, this nightmare dungeon is 3 times better than this nightmare dungeon. So run this one and never run this one. They actually not only did all the data, but they also normalized it themselves. So that's massive. And then, that's one less video that I have to make. And then they just gave you 5% more density in the monoliths. And in general, in these games, density always feels better. So the monoliths are already pretty dense compared to the campaign. So you're going to get more. You're going to get more from playing the normal monoliths, which is where most people will be for a long time. You're not supposed to just rip through the monoliths and go to the empowered monolith instantly. So this will actually make a difference, I think. Another thing about the mods, again, not trying to make the game like super impossible, is, okay, so you have the corruption level rising and it's making it way harder. And not only were the mods way more powerful before, but they also scaled. They scaled up. So it was ridiculous. So now the magnitude of the mods has come down, and they're now static, and the maximum duration of how long they can last was cut in half. So if all that doesn't mean anything to you, I think this is going to make the end game much better. You just play. You play the game, and it's less about the stupid cherry picking. I think this is a big W for EHG. This is what I would have done. The only thing I might have done differently is every single game seems to reward not doing the hardest content. The only games that I know that reward the highest content are like Lost Ark and WoW, the MMOs. But these ARPGs have a theme where it's not always valuable to do the hardest content to really push your character. I wish that would be more valuable in the math that I saw. That would be the only area here where I would like them to look at. I wish the rewards scaled faster than what the math showed there. In the dungeons and the arena, okay, so this part I had to read like 15 times. So in the higher dungeons and the arena, they lowered the mods because they're making the game harder in general. In dungeons, they lowered the mods so it will balance and it'll be about the same at the end for the bosses. But they did say the earlier part of the dungeon, when you get to the end, will be more difficult. But in the arena, the magnitude at which they lessened the mods is less relative to the lessening of the dungeons. I had to read it like 15 times in the patch notes. So what that means is since they brought the modifiers down lower in the arena will be harder. And the arena scaling is better because it's going to get a lot harder much faster. So what that means is you're not going to go to wave like 3,000 currently in the game, which actually takes hours and hours and hours or days of playing, which is stupid to get a ranking. So now like getting to wave like 400 will probably be like crazy good. So overall, they're good changes, but as you get to the very end of the game, this is T3 and T4, which is end game, it's going to be more difficult. But they actually compensated for you there. The T1 dungeons, just getting ingratiated to it will be a lot easier. There's full controller support now. People will really care about that. Tons of the CEO of Last Epoch, I believe, only plays controller. So controller will always be good in this game because otherwise he can't play. EHG, I think, has made comments that they're looking into WASD in consoles. We get that question all the time. They added a new mechanic, parry, that lets you block damage, but you can't block ailments with it. They changed many skills and passives. It's just pages and pages and pages of changes. So the TLDR is the most powerful ones got nerfed. Shadow Daggers is godly. It's what I've been speedrunning all the time. I think I mentioned it in my starter video. That got nerfed. The squirrels got nerfed. Hydrahedron. There's so many moving parts with Hydrahedron. It went down a lot, but some people are saying there's some bug fixes which will kind of reverse some of the nerfs. We'll see. The Lich Infinite Zombie thing got corrected, and a lot of the dog shit skills got buffed. So the game was balanced. People are going to go on the forums and get really upset. My favorite build that I've been playing for 3 months got nerfed. How could you do that? I mean, that people never take nerfs well. I mean, you need to be able to balance the game. Shadow Daggers is definitely way too strong. My Squirrel Druid can mow down an entire map like a lawnmower. Hydrahedron's out of control. The Volatile Zombies was breaking everything. I don't think these are bad changes. Uniques got adjusted in the same way. I don't know enough about the uniques to speak intelligently on it. A lot of the base items got changed, like belts that gave 300 armor and now only give 50 armor because it was ridiculous. There's a weapon called a Chris, which is super good for speedrunning. Their critical strike multiplier went down. This isn't going to affect new players too much. They're not going to notice, but they changed the base items. The ranged monsters now move in between attacks, so they look kind of stupid just standing there shooting you. It's now an actual fight, and it's going to make it easier. And then there's like millions and millions of pages of bug fixes and every single thing about the game you could possibly think about. So overall, I think this patch is extremely strong. Again, the thing that I thought was the most crazy was this. The game actually looks significantly better. I think people who have played it before are going to notice it, and people who play it for the first time are going to be like, wow, everyone was saying Last Epoch doesn't look that good. What's the problem? This looks pretty good. Well, it's because of this line right here. They made a massive change to it. I think almost all of these changes will make the game a lot better. And I don't know, like, this might be like a very insulting thing to say, but just the fact that they actually did the math. They went through and they did the math on their game and they fixed it I mean, I guess that is an insulting thing to say, no matter which way you say it. But I don't know. That just impresses me. It just impresses me that happened. So I would say this patch makes me more excited for the launch, and yeah, they're doing some good things over at 11th Hour Gaming.